be out of town.
Yeah, well, that's Don, I guess. Is Tom gonna be here?
Tom's not gonna be here.
Tom's not gonna be
He
here.
sent an email to y'all, everybody.
Yes, ma'am. Says a lot more folks.
Hi, Daryl. How are you? I'm good. Haven't seen you in a while. You doing okay? Yeah, I understand that. That's why you're sitting on the front row.
Alright, it's 4 p.m. and I'm going to officially call this special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. I don't see the city secretary, but we have our city manager here. Would you like to do a roll call,
All
John?
members are present with the exception of Mr. McMahon.
Alright. Today we're here to discuss and consider possible action relating to the Planning and Zoning Commission chairman's recent communications with certain members of the Board of Aldermen. Hi, my name is Katie Hill, and I'm the Planning and Zoning's chairman. We're here today because an executive session was called so that my fellow commissioners could address me. This meeting was originally supposed to be on August 27th, but it was postponed because not all of my fellow chairman commissioners could be here. Please raise your hand if you were unable to make the original meeting date. August 27th.
That was me. I wasn't.
Jim. Okay. As you can see, we're still missing some members. That chairman were with me and they wanted to address me. They wanted to address me in executive session. When something like this is out in the public, it goes different directions. They just wanted to express their concerns, and an executive session is what they asked for. I did a lot of research as we came up to this meeting, and I found out, according to the Texas Attorney General's office, an executive session to speak to a member of the commissioners isn't actually required, may not be legal. If it were to be so, as the subject of that executive session, it's my right to request that it be public. I requested that it be made public. That was my choice. It was my choice because I'm not embarrassed. And it was my choice because what we do is subject to accountability to you, to each other. And I believe Salato's government should be as transparent as possible, have open communication, and accountability. It's what you deserve. Greatest respect to address me with their concern, how they feel about the concern, and they called this meeting themselves, or if they were just agreeable to it. After they have
Sure, I can go first. What precipitated this was a meeting, the last official meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, where we voted on a replat option. It was a unanimous vote. We all voted for it. because it was a public meeting of, I think it was like the third in the replatting thing, and so by ordinance, we were essentially required to approve that, which is what we did. And KD voted for it as well. Well, I was called by a couple of the aldermen that said the next day that KD had called them and said that she felt like she was coerced into the vote. This is what they told me, Katie, that may not be exact words. Coerced into the vote, and she recommended so all we can do in the planning and zoning is make recommendations, which is what I felt like that it was that we have to have a sense of trust here on the commission, which I think is inherent on any board or commission that you're on. And I felt like that by Katie going to the alderman, essentially undermining our recommendation, that trust had been broken, and I didn't think that was a good thing, and I felt like that we needed to address this to make sure that we understood each other, and that when we have meetings, that's the whole time when you vote against things. We don't vote for it and then you go back and say, no, I didn't mean that. So that's really all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, that's the way I remember things as well. And it's not exactly. I don't think what happened was necessarily, it wasn't illegal. It just kind of hit all of us, kind of shocked me that it happened that way, when in the meeting everybody agreed with no serious comment of concern about the vote. And when we left, it was a done deal. In fact, we had a meeting with our village attorney last week that was very informative, very good, and I hope we have more of those kind of meetings, Don. And the fact is that because this is not, we weren't voting on a variance of any kind, we were simply voting on approving or signing off on the final plat of the replat that had already been approved. And by county and state law, we couldn't deny it unless there was a very strong legal reason why it didn't fit our criteria and ordinance. And we had already been through all that. We approved the variances that got us to the replat that we approved. So to have somebody vote against it at that time was basically a moot point anyway. It was going to be approved regardless of anybody's vote. I mean, if anything, somebody, I guess, could abstain and not vote at all. If that's, they didn't want to vote for it, they could certainly abstain, I'm assuming. But, you know, that's what this meeting to me is more of a, and that's one reason we want to do an executive session, I think. Talk about maybe the five of us work at better communication while the meeting is in progress. And if you don't like something, say something. We may not all agree, but we've got to get along, and we've got to kind of stand behind the vote of whatever this commission votes to send to the alderman. We may not all agree with it, and you can say what you will about that, but it was just maybe there's a better way to do it, is what I'm saying. So that's all I've got to say.
The last part of that question, Paul, was who brought this concern, who raised it to you?
Oh, actually, I think I'd called Don for something, and he and I were talking about it, and he mentioned that he had just heard from, I guess, maybe Jim or the alderman or somebody that they were concerned about the way they were, this particular alderman. so all kind of blindsided by what happened. I know at least one alderman, I haven't talked to him about this. I don't know how to feel, but it kind of came to us through the back door, and that's what bothered us more than anything, I think.
Thank you, Paul. John?
Yeah, I got other nicknames you can call me. I heard about this from Paul on the phone. Because I was there. In my opinion, the laws of Texas, and as I understand it, if the plat put before us meets all the requirements of the village, that we are obligated to vote for it. Our personal views are more or less subsidiary to that requirement, and so we had to vote for it. Now, whether there was a breach of trust or not, I think is a personal opinion. And I'm going to go out on a limb here just a little bit and say this is lessons learned, and we should just sort of downplay the controversy because there really isn't any controversy to be had.
Wow, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your candor and honesty. I've spoken with 2 municipal lawyers from Williamson and Travis counties. They were incredulous that this meeting was called. And they actually confirmed that I was doing my job. I believe that you were misinformed. Whichever alderman spoke with you should have come to me and spoken with me. When I spoke, I never said anything about coercion. And there was a grave miscommunication somewhere. All of this could have been avoided if the courtesy had been extended to me to speak to me directly. I agree that this commission needs education and training. We need agendas within more than a week ahead of time so that we can thoroughly research them. None of us do this full time. And I know that we all have unselfish motives for being here and are working for the prosperity and welfare of this town. If you feel that I breached your trust, I apologize. It was not my intention. We were appointed, in my opinion, each of us, not because we get along, not because we're yes men, but because the aldermen trust us to communicate to them. That's what I was doing and what I expect all of you to do. For those of you not familiar with the planning and zoning, sometimes things come to us which we don't have a choice. If it meets the legal requirements in Salato's ordinances, we have to approve them. And that might be indicative, if we're upset about it or if we don't want to do it, it's indicative that perhaps our ordinances are broken and need to be addressed. And that's what we should be focusing on. And I'm honored to be up here with these gentlemen and Tom, who isn't here today, to make this city better. I apologize for sounding emotional. Not. But I would like to know, well, I'm not going to go there. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion that we adjourn.
Second.
So moved. This meeting is adjourned.